This is Every Single Saint. Welcome back to Every Single Saint. In this podcast, we tell the stories of all the saints throughout Christian history in order, chronologically. We're still in the middle of the 200s. We are in 250 AD. It is the holidays, the Christmas times. We are going to do a couple episodes this week and next week that are a little bit shorter. This week will be just me giving a quick story on a saint. Who is me? I am me. I am Winston, the co-host of this podcast. Next week will be the other co-host, my wife, Kaitlyn. But this week, you're stuck with just me telling the story of Saint Denis. A very, very long time ago, in the middle of what we today call France, there was a tribe of Celtic people. They were called the Parisii. And as their tribe grew, that area became known as Paris. Also around that time, the Bishop of Rome, who was named Fabian, who we will get to in another episode, sent Saint Denis on a mission to this tribe of people to preach to them the good news of Christ. Saint Denis, who at the time was just called Denis, happily accepted, and he went, and this group of people, it was now a well-known town. He established a church there and was converting many, many Christians. He was doing a very good job in his mission. And so Saint Denis, one thing to know about him, the very first bishop of Paris. The Bishop of Paris has had many bishops throughout the years. So his missionary work and his evangelization was doing so well that a lot of the pagans in the area were very upset with him and the growing church in Paris. This all led to his arrest. Saint Denis was brought in and was martyred. He was martyred, but also the word here, martyred, has a little bit of quotations around it, because did he instantly die? At the moment that he was beheaded, he was beheaded. That was how he was martyred. As the story goes, he was beheaded. And then Denis did something very interesting. His headless body reached down and picked up his head, and he began to walk with it while he began to walk while holding his head in his hands, continuing to preach. And he walked miles and miles. And obviously this miraculous act converted even more Christians. So that is the famous Saint Denis, known for getting his head cut off and then carrying his head for miles while still preaching the word of Christ. The place that he did get his head cut off, that is today called Mount Martyr, or Martyr's Mountain, Montmartre, in Paris, and there's a church there. The Basilica of Saint Denis, Basilica of Saint Denis, where many famous royal French people are buried, including Saint Louis. If you've ever heard of the city in America, St. Louis, and you were curious, who is St. Louis? Well, more on him in a while from now, but he's buried in the Basilica of Saint Denis. So that is the entire story of Saint Denis, first bishop of Paris, first saint to be beheaded and then to carry his head for a few miles while continuing to preach. Saint Denis is the patron saint of Paris. Great. He's the patron saint against frenzy, it says. So that is interesting. I suppose if you or people you know are going to be in a frenzy, Saint Paris is the patron saint against frenzy. He's the patron saint against strife. It says, not sure where we get these, but patron saint against strife. He's the patron saint against headaches. So next time you have a headache, this is a little ironic, seeing as his head was cut off, but he had to live a little bit longer after that. So sometimes the patronages of these saints and, their life stories are a little ironic. He's the patron saint of hydrophobia. Hydrophobia is a fear of water, and it is a symptom of rabies. So that is the story of the wonderful, famous Saint Denis. Next time you have a headache, next time you're in strife, next time you are in a frenzy or in Paris or in a situation where you might be afraid of water, ask for the prayers of Saint Denis. Obviously a very bold bishop, a very bold follower of Christ, courageous. We are thankful for his witness, his martyrdom. We are encouraged that even, in martyrdom, facing the sword, he continued to preach Christ. And then after the sword, continued to preach Christ. So God, we ask you to be with us in all the moments of our lives. And that if we go through a struggle before and after that struggle that we are facing, please be with us. Help us to be bold and remember, your love for us. Remember your blessings in our life. Help us to grow in our thankfulness this Christmas season. And during this season, help us to remember what the wonderful joy that the nativity of Jesus brings us. Saint Denis, pray for us. Thank you, listeners, for listening to my story this week. It was a short one, nice, but very fun. Tell your friends about this story. I think it's one worth telling another person about. So tell someone else the story of Saint Denis, and then send us a note that says, hey, I told someone about the story of Saint Denis. And we will write a note back to you saying, thank you, friend. We are praying for you this week. Please pray for us. See you next Monday as our other co-host, Kaitlyn, brings to you another story. Patron saint of the podcast, St. Nicholas, pray for us.